Hey guys, this is Nate at Lever Design and Print. Um, I'm literally making a video because I don't want to type a response to an answer because it's fairly lengthy and people watch videos. But this is a direct response to Adam Smith and talking about building a clean culture at shops, or how you do that. And by clean culture, I mean like physically the shop's clean, and how you start implementing that and getting guys to be clean or follow those processes. Um, it's a major problem at most shops, and honestly, with cotton fibers and everything else flying around, it's a constant thing. You're always cleaning; it never really ends. But there is very solid reasons to why you want to be clean, and they're massive. Like, not only do we just know, hey, being clean means I'm getting less ink on my hands and have to stop the press to wipe them down, means whatever. But it's much bigger than just those little moments of having to stop to clean your hands. And that, number one, is a problem right there. That alone, any downtime is a problem. But more importantly than that, if you have a dirty shop, if you really dive into that and look at that, and look at shops that have dirty shops, start looking at presses and look in the little cracks and crevices and start thinking about, if there's ink on everything and there's dust on everything and it's all filling and clogging, what's that doing to pistons and cylinders and servos and laser eyes and everything else that is in a mechanized press? And what is that doing to it in the long run? It's killing it. And we all know how much it costs to have a tech come out and work on stuff. And generally they're more than worth it. But even then, if you don't have to spend those thousands of dollars on that, why? So anytime that something's dirty or is not maintained, it's only killing your equipment and bringing back the longevity of it. And, just in the long run, you're going to spend way more money on maintenance. You're going to spend more time spraying out. You're going to spend more money on just like hand wipes or whatever you use to wash your hands, or gloves, or whatever your shop specifically uses. You're going to spend more on that. The downtime, if you're using film, the dust getting in the screen room, and now you got pinholes, and that's more downtime. And it just becomes this whole thing, which most business owners understand it's a problem. But how do we get past that, and why it's important? And another thing I want to address that I think is important to having a clean shop, and I said something about this in a Facebook group recently. Of course, I got just ripped on it for it. Well, luckily for me, I don't care. But, if you know my background, number one, I have one of the smallest shops around. The company I managed prior to this was one of the largest shops around and worked for some of the largest fashion retailers in the country. So I made a comment that everyone, of course, got real upset about. But literally the presence and the view and the way your shop looks is important to customers. Not because most customers actually care. And I had people saying, well, I'm a garage printer only. My customer never comes. They never show up. And I said, that's fine and that's cool. But eventually someday, if you're really going after big fish and trying to land big people, you will have people that want to come in and do actual tours of production facilities. And if it looks like trash, that's going to turn them off. And that doesn't mean your shop needs to be spotless or anything like that either. It is a production facility and they expect that. But if there's just crap everywhere and their feet are stuck to the floor and they literally can't walk in the door without getting an ink stain on their face, that's a problem, and that will turn off those customers. And I don't know how many customers we won over at different times by having people come in and they see that we have a clean, organized, production ready shop that can handle very large orders for very large clientele. And so it is important. And, not only is the cleanliness important for all those things, but if you're not keeping your garments clean, if you're a contract shop, first off, the chargebacks are insane because you're going to lose more than you are ever going to get out of the print if you're a contract shop. And if you're a non-contract shop, and you're having to buy new garments because now they're messy, dirty, stained, you're either going to spend a lot more on labor and chemicals spraying them out, or you're going to spend more on ordering in replacement garments for that. And then on top of that, now you have the downtime associated with that because you couldn't finish the order today, and you have setup times and everything else that goes into that. So after all that said, how the heck do you do this though? And if you have had a bad history of this for a long time and it's really a major problem, how do you start implementing some of these things and going about this? Because it's not going to be a switch just getting flipped. That's all there is to it. You have to, as the owner or the manager, you have to start building that up slowly and really having the people buy in and understand the why. Okay, so like Adam was talking about, they're pretty much shut down right now, and he's seeing some major issues as he's more involved in looking at these processes. All right, so what can you do? The first thing I would do, take those biggest things you see, take maybe 2 or 3 of them, the really major egregious problems, and put that on one list of, and that's your list we're going to call the non-negotiables. Now, start keeping a list and keep track of all these other problems and issues too. That's going into this list we're calling the negotiables for right now. So when my guys come back, I would have a team meeting with them. And if you know me well too, you'll know for the most part, I really hate team meetings because it's major downtime. It costs a lot of money, but sometimes it is good to have team meetings to be able to say everything to everyone once and make sure everyone understands it. Now, anytime you have a team meeting, because people learn in different ways, print out what you're going to say and then also read it with them and make sure they understand you. And so you have 2 forms of training there. They're having a record and something they can read if they're a person that learns by reading, but also they're hearing you say it. So if they're a person that is an audible learner, all of a sudden they're hearing that and they're learning that. Okay, so those are the 2 ways. And of course, if there's anything like really technical at all in these new cleaning things you want to put in, take them and show them that too. Say, this is how we're going to do this. This is exactly how this needs to be done and why. So now you've covered 3 different ways. You've done training, you have a written record of it that they can keep, and they've heard it. Okay, cool. You've covered the bases on making sure they learn it. Now, here's the real part. Start explaining to them the why, because that is the buy-in. And you may not have it day one. You may come to them and say, guys, we're going to follow up with this in 2 weeks. We're going to circle back around to this topic again. And I'm going to have some more information for you and be able to give you more. And so the why is the most important part. And I'm Richard Greaves, thanks. But, that is the biggest thing, because that starts building the culture and building the team. And in the long run, you may get some people who never buy in. And you know what? Probably in the long run, they're not going to be a part of your team anyhow. So, it may happen. But the good people will buy in, and they'll see the big picture as long as you follow it and you explain it right as the owner, the leader, the manager, whatever you are. Now, remember that no matter what, as the leader, you have to be perfect or nearly perfect. So whatever things you implement, they have to see you doing that every time. If you set a rule, a restriction, a guideline, you have to follow that every time. You have to be accountable all the time, because they are watching you, whether they think or whether you think they are or not, they are always watching you. So you have got to be on your game. That means if you go, hey, this is where we're putting the ink away, or this is what I want done at the end of the job, or whatever, you have to follow that every time. You have to be perfect, because they won't buy in and it's not real and they won't believe it if you're not doing it. So that comes to the next part of building in the why. Whatever you're doing, I would say start when the guys come back to this team meeting and pick some of maybe your leaders, team leads, your areas that they're more in a leadership role or a team lead or whatever, and start. This can be simple. Give them a pad of paper and a pencil and say, guys, I want you to write down every time you had to stop because of a pinhole, because Billy had to wash his hands because he got ink on himself, because, whatever. Anytime there's a minute of downtime, I just want you to jot down on this piece of paper real quick what time it is, what it says on the press there. Cool. And when it ended. That's it. And just turn it into me at the end of every day, this sheet of paper. Cool. For 2 weeks, you build that up. And when you come back around to this meeting, you start telling them, here's the why. Here is the why. Here's how much downtime we had. And at the average hourly rate of whatever we are or whatever, here's the amount of money the company lost. Be honest with them about that. It's okay to give them actual numbers. Tell them that and go, guys, if we keep having to spend these things on this, if it costs whatever it cost in that 2 week time period, break it up into a year form, multiply that up. Here's what that looks like over 52 weeks now. Guys, so essentially the company is losing $8,000. Don't you guys think it would be awesome if between all of you, this $8,000 a year, if we could keep things clean and I didn't have to spend money on all these other things now because we're not profitable in these areas, because I had to buy more cleaning supplies, because I had to buy, wouldn't it be awesome if I could give you each a $500 raise or whatever it may be, whatever the honest number is. and most people are going to buy into that. And that's when you start building this bigger idea and this culture that, hey, if the company does better and the company's more efficient, you also are going to have more opportunities here because the company's growing. But not only that, if more money is coming in profitably for the company can give back more to you. And keep in mind, none of that, in any of that, did I ever say me or I as the owner. You are constantly trying to build up this idea of this team, the company. The company is bigger than everything. It should be. It should be bigger than the owner. It should be bigger than just the production manager. It should be bigger than any given employee, because together you can do more than all the individual parts. And that's the part you have to start reinforcing and building up. And that takes a long time. That's all there is to it. It does. That culture, building that, it does. It could take years, depending on how big your shop is and how bad these problems are. It could take years to build this up, but you got to start somewhere. So, building up that why is the real important thing. Now, if your guys start crushing it and they actually are doing a great job and they're actually saving you money, man, make sure, once again, you pass that back to them. Give them a bonus, give them $100, whatever, give it to them. You may spend $5, $8, $1,000, whatever, passing out a clean check because they did great on keeping up with their cleanliness. Whoop-de-doo, spend it, because it's much cheaper than the $2,000 to $5,000, whatever you're going to be paying in the long run in chemicals, in chargebacks, in buying replacement garments, in stopping and fixing pinholes, in having techs come out for thousands of dollars and work on your presses. Don't be cheap about it. And what you say and what you build in that team, actually give back to them. Because as much as you start showing them that you want to give back to them, if they're the right people and the good ones, they will give back to you and they will move mountains for you. You're going to have some bad apples no matter what. And they're not going to be people that are on the team long-term anyhow. That's all there is to it. They'll work their way out if you're building a good culture. But the good people stay, man. They'll be loyal and they will move mountains for you. So that's awesome. So start with something easy. The first team meeting back, start with, guys, here's 3 things. These are my non-negotiables. These are this is how we are going to do it. Now I'm going to show you. I want to make sure you understand. And I want to make sure you understand why. And open it up. Let them ask questions. And then also say to them, guys, I'm going to give you a little homework to do over the next couple weeks. And in 2 weeks, we're going to come back to this. And we're going to talk about it again. In that time, I also want you guys to come up with ideas and things that you saw that can help us get better. If there's any specific tools, supplies, anything you need me to buy, because you're the ones doing the work on the day, put it back on them. Keep emphasizing that team culture of that we're going to do this all together. It's not just me. It's not just you. It's not just this guy. It's everybody together buying in and building this, and so you may have to start out for a while if you have a very dirty shop of just stopping for 30 to 45 minutes at the end of every day and just going, guys, we're shutting down while the dryers are cooling off, while, whatever, we're doing the maintenance on the DTG, while we're, cleaning the heads on the DTS, whatever it is, at the beginning or the end of the day when you have some downtime, whatever, you may have to actually make downtime, because for a while you may have to put forth some effort and physically stop and spend some hours cleaning. I'm not saying like stop for shifts or hours or days, that is very expensive, but for small amounts of time, have them slowly start working on things till it gets back around to a good spot. And really then when you can get to that good spot and you've built that culture, it's fairly easy to maintain that. So even times when we had multiple hundreds of thousands of units in the shop and we were jamming, people knew, we kept up with things. Everybody in my contract shop always knew, man, if there's downtime, if I'm the catcher, the offloader, the loader, any of it, if there is 5 minutes of downtime, I better have a broom in my hand. Everybody knew that, and everyone bought into it. I didn't have to run around nipping at people's heels because they knew it was a company culture. The better the company did, the more we made and the more efficient we were, the more it was all going to come back from them, and they were going to have greater opportunities and they would be able to build a better paycheck for themselves. And so it starts with these little things. It starts with that non-negotiable list. Now, and then start getting your team input and having them want to learn as well along with you. And they may teach you things that you hadn't even thought of or come up with better ideas. Often, the guys doing the job actually every day do come up with better things than that. Start with that small list. That's the non-negotiable. Cool. Once we start getting that kind of wrapped up, okay, we'll start adding to that list now. And we'll start making processes and real procedures, and we'll get real input. And with that half an hour, 45 minutes, or whatever a day, you know, in a couple months' time, we're going to start getting things cleaned up and getting around. You know, and sometimes it does. The large shop that I keep talking about, it literally took years for me to get through every nook and cranny of that place and get things really tightened up in the way it should be. And it was a constant state of cleaning all the time too, for little increments. It was a constant state of that and putting in processes that, okay, this is how we're going to be able to maintain this now. But it wasn't going downhill. It was just that it became a maintenance routine versus a holy crap, the shop is a wreck and it's going to take days and hours and crazy money to get it back around. So I don't know. That sounds like probably a lot of rambling. Hopefully that spurns some ideas. Of course, reach out to me if you want more ideas. They're never ending. But yeah, hopefully that helped a little bit and kind of answered that question. Start sparking some ideas of how to truly build that clean culture within your shop.